today's podcast, I'm going to take you through the horrifying secrets that is this. You have 6 years to be successful and make money before everything changes. So by 2030, you have to be in a position where you have financial stability, financial freedoms. You can do what you want when you want. And I'm going to explain why with some very harrowing things that are coming up and then how you can basically solve this to put yourself in a situation where you have financial security so you provide for yourself and your family. Now, if we look at very base system in terms of how the world works, why economies globally are going to start to struggle, there's a couple of big things that are going to come in. So if we look at one of the things that drives economies growing and how economies grow is a lot of it to do with population increases. Because if there's more people, there's more demand for housing, there's more demand for food, restaurants, online coaching, whatever. But what is starting to happen is population numbers are starting to come down. And they will come down quicker and quicker and quicker, which means there's going to be less demand, which is not going to be driving up the GDP of countries. So this is one of the big economic factors that's coming in that will be driving down the economies and slowing things down. Because a lot of where the population growth is coming is from developing countries. But as those countries are developing, people are having less children and there's less demand. So this is one of the big things that's driving this. Now, the second thing, which is glaringly obvious, and I'm sure everyone is already using this, and if you aren't, you should be, is AI and artificial intelligence. Now, the development in artificial intelligence, in terms of how much it's improving, almost like week on week and month on month, is insane. Now, what this essentially means is that a lot of the job roles we have right now are going to be replaced. So there is going to be people with mass unemployment. And it's also going to be a huge ladder of opportunity. Why? Because it could be a position where you could have one-person companies where I could start a billion-dollar software company because the AI systems are so good. I just need to come up with the idea and then I can get that to build it and implement it for me. So this is where this is going to start to change a lot of the way the base economics of the world work. Now, if you actually look at what's happening across the world, it's quite harrowing, in fact, if you look at what's going on in terms of Mark Zuckerberg coming out, talking about how he was forced to censor information, how he was forced to basically almost like rig the US election. And then we look at the owner of Telegram, who's then also been put in prison. These are huge things that show how mass populations in the countries across the world, people are being manipulated, but people are blind to this. And this is what I'd actually say is one of the beautiful things about the UAE and Dubai is they don't get involved in a lot of this bullshit. And if you look at what we need as actual to see economic growth and countries do well is strong leadership. One of the reasons the countries like the UK is an absolute shit show at the moment. France itself is struggling. It's basically got a communist government. Germany's got a new government, which is going to be a disaster. And for the love of God, Kamala Harris doesn't win the US election, because what we need is we need strong economies, because the number one thing people need is the economy to do well so people have money and then there's less problems. Donald Trump coming in power into the US will be one of the biggest things that drives this. So these are the big things that are going to be driving what's happening with the economies and why this window of opportunity for you to get financial freedom for yourself and also for your family is closing. You've literally got probably till 2030 for the current economic environment that we've known and the world has known is going to be completely changed. And the rule book's going to be out the window and you need to put yourself in a position where this won't affect you. Now, the quickest way to do this is very, very simply. You need to create a successful business that creates like net positive cash flow. You can then invest into assets and then provide you income. Now, what type of assets should you be investing into? Great question. So what I personally do is I put some money into high risk assets like cryptocurrency. It's not done so well the last month or two. And then I put the rest of it into low risk assets, stuff like real estate. Now, why there's a blend like that is because the low risk assets like real estate, they appreciate over time. And what happens is they also cash flow. And if you look what's about to happen in the situation at the moment with the economies as of start of September 2024, the US government is about to start printing money. Now, what happens when the US government starts printing money is that because the interest rates are coming down, inflation probably next year will skyrocket and go through the roof. Now, if inflation is going to go through the roof, what happens is the money in your bank account becomes worth less and the price of everything goes up. Now, because the price of everything goes up, it means the assets that you own, real estate, also appreciate. So for example, if in next year you have £1 million worth of real estate, let's say that increases by 10%, you've made 100,000 in terms of the inflation of those assets. That's how your net worth can grow. And in terms of a base rule, in terms of what you want to be looking at, in terms of have financial freedom, this is the calculation you want to look at. And you want to work out what your burn rate is, which is essentially how much money you spend every month just to live. And that's the amount you want to be trying to replace with passive income. Now, what you want to be doing, say, for example, it was I burn £300,000 a year, probably more than that. The rough calculation in terms of how much money you need to have in net worth invested is multiply that by 22. So if you work out, for example, you need 100 grand a year to live off, then you need roughly 2.2 million invested in assets to give you the income back that's then also going to give you a protection against inflation as over time goes. Now, in terms of you actually creating this income to then invest, this is why online businesses are the number one way to do this, because you've got huge profit margins, you can implement and execute things quickly, and guess what? You can sell to the entire world. And the reality is there's multiple different business models, but one of the easiest ways to scale, and if you're watching this and listening to this podcast, is in the fitness industry. There's a huge problem in terms of people not being able to get in shape. Like the obesity epidemic is getting bigger than ever. And the actual statistics in terms of the growth in the fitness industry is wild. People say all the time that online coaching and fitness is saturated. It's saturated with terrible trainers, terrible people, online coaches. I just went to the Pure Gym in West Bridgford in Nottingham, and every trainer there was out of shape, pen the belly. Like that is what you're competing against. The bar is so low for excellence that it's so easy to win. And like the recipe for this could not be simpler. You be in really good shape if you want to be a fitness coach. You then also create really good content that's valuable. You become charismatic. You turn up every single day and do the things you need to do. It is very, very simple. Yet so many people struggle because of mindset issues. But what you need to do is raise your standards, and the higher your standards are, the more achievement you'll have and the more you'll protect yourself over the years to come. And this is something I think about a lot in terms of the way you need to actually analyze things in life. If you do the hard things now, your life will be easy in the future. But if you take the easy route now, your life in the future will become hard. And this is why we often have to go through the pain before we get paid. And most people aren't willing to be that persistent to do it. So this is the most important thing you need to understand. And this is also when you look at businesses overall, what you want to focus on doing is selling to higher price customers. So if you target rich people and you work with rich people and solve their problems, you can charge rich person prices. You do not want to be coaching people who are like 18, 20 years old who don't have the money to pay you. You might enjoy it, but it's not going to feed your family. And this is where you have to build your business around demand, people who can actually pay you, and also something that's going to fulfill you. Like if you love working with certain types of clientele, boom, nail into that. Because your passion is what will keep you determined and keep you going. Because one of the reasons a lot of people drop off is because they're not that bothered about it. And this is what you need to do over the next few years to get yourself in a position of financial freedom. If you took value from this podcast, make sure you smash the like button. I have one huge ask. If you're watching this on YouTube, it costs you absolutely nothing to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and share it with a friend. And we'll see you next episode very soon.